Ladies and gentlemen, we're back at it again. It's been a few days because I had to go out of town, and unfortunately the internet was not great where I was, but we're here anyway. Today we're going to look at a bunch of cards. We're going to talk about them. We're going to rank them from 1 to 5 stars, telling you how powerful, how flexible, how good they are for their class. And the class we're going to do today is Mechanologist. Mechanologist got some really cool tools in this set, so let's talk about them. Starting with Dissolution Sphere, a 2-cost Mechanologist action item at Majestic. It does not block like every other item in the game. No blocks on it, so if you want to use it to defend yourself, you can't normally just throw it down as a block. But it does say this: Dissolution Sphere enters the arena with a steam counter on it. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Dissolution Sphere unless you remove a steam counter from it. So it comes into play on your turn with a steam counter, and it just sits there through your opponent's turn. And then it comes back to your turn, you remove a counter from the Dissolution Sphere, and it just sits there all the way through your turn, all the way through your opponent's turn. Comes back to your turn, and that's when it destroys itself. So it sticks around for about 2 turns. Now, what does it do? Well, whenever your hero would be dealt exactly 1 damage, prevent it. This is incredible for what looks to be the current meta of Aura Prism, and well, Runeblade's always been pretty decent because it can just throw like split damage at you in the form of like Rune Chance, or perhaps like 1 single point of arcane damage. It's even good against like Ninja with Kodachis, right? This card is so good for Mechanologist in dealing with those. It's like mind-blowingly great for Mechanologist players to have access to a card like this to put into their sideboard. This is a fantastic sideboard card, a card that can see immediate play. Just doesn't really matter how you want to play out your game plan. Like if you want to play Boost Dash, maybe you still run this and you just tech it in against specific matchups. Maybe you don't play Boost Dash and you play like full-on hard control Pistol Dash. I'm not sure if you can do that currently in this setup, but if you can, this is another tool in your arsenal of stopping annoying things that hit you for little points of damage. It's fantastic, again, if your opponent's playing like a Prism strategy where they're just trying to poke you with them auras and you can't deal with them. You just throw this down and it soaks it for 2 turns. It's kind of like Channel Lake Frigid in that respect, and it's also kind of like Zen State in that respect, both of which are good cards. Channel Lake Frigid you have to really work to make stay out in the field by pitching things the right way, and Zen State you can't actually make unless you follow the combo line and then have that last piece hit, and then you get the effect. This you just pay 2 for. It doesn't block, but you know, it's really good. I give this a 4-star. It's a fantastic card, perfect for the sideboard. Microprocessor. It's so hard not to just give all of the specializations that were printed in this set 5 stars. So I'm not gonna bother. This is a 5-star card. Microprocessor, fantastic card, but specifically only for Data Doll because it's a Data Doll specialization. Pitches blue, cost 2. It's an item, so if you banish this off the top with you know, like a boost, then this comes into play because you're playing as Data Doll. And it says, once per turn action, pay 0 to opt 1. So look at the top card of your deck, put it on the bottom or the top. Once per turn action, you can also choose to pay 0 and draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So this is fantastic if you have an item in your hand that you want to get into play, but you don't want to spend the action point to do so. You can draw a card, put that item from your hand on top of your deck, and then boost something to trigger that going into the field. Fantastic choice. And then the third choice, once per turn action, pay 0, banish the top card of your deck. So basically just a boost without a boost, right? Which is kind of cool. Now, the first time you activate Microprocessor each turn, you gain an action point. So, in other words, normally if you were to activate either of these or any of these 3 options, your turn would be done, right? You do this because none of these say go again. But if you activate this once, you gain the action point back. So you can choose any of these modes once, and then if you decide to do it a second time, then your turn's going to be over then, unless you have some tricks up your sleeve. But fantastic card. It does exactly what you want to do for Data Doll, and it's starting to make it to where the 3-card hand every turn isn't game-breakingly bad for you. I mean, it's so hard to say because it really is, but this card's a 5-star because it's starting to kind of cut into that issue that Data Doll definitely has. Signal Jammer, another very interesting sideboard card in my opinion. Of course, this is a 0-cost item that pitches blue, blocks for nothing. Signal Jammer enters with 1 steam counter on it, and you do the same thing you did with Dissolution Sphere. It comes in, you put a counter on it, you take a counter off at the beginning of your next turn, you look at it, it has no counters, and then you destroy it on the subsequent turn after that. What does this one do? Each hero can't play more than 1 non-attack action card each turn. This is going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out, because if this were like Briar heavy meta, this would be like uber nuts, right? This is like the perfect sideboard card into that strategy. But if we go into a meta where people are just content to play attack actions, just jam down attack actions, then Signal Jammer does nothing, because the meta says that everyone just wants to attack, and they don't really care about the, you know, non-attack into non-attack into attack from there, which is very intriguing. Honestly, it doesn't ever really hurt Mechanologist. So again, this is an interesting sideboard card. I don't think it's as powerful as Dissolution Sphere, unless the meta dictates that it is, in which case that would be a 4-star, but right now I'm giving it a 3-star because it is solid, and this one sticks around for 2 turns, but I don't know if the meta is that interested right now in playing double non-attacks on a turn. We'll see. Teclopounder, a perfect card if you're trying to push extra damage, but is it enough? It's a 2-cost, it pitches blue, another item. All these items don't block. This comes in with 3 steam counters, and then when it has 0, you destroy it. It says once per turn effect, whenever you boost an attack action card, remove a steam counter and it gets +2. So this can really push a lot of weird breakpoints up to be very powerful. And in fact, it's like great if you're playing T-bone, which we'll talk about here in a second, because T-bone getting stronger is a very scary proposition indeed. Nevertheless, this card is solid. I don't necessarily love the fact that it's like, it's just more damage. It's like pure damage, and it pushes breakpoints, and breakpoints are really important in this game. But a lot of the times, well, I guess I'm thinking about Commoner Dash. I should consider there are some great rares and Majestics that if they hit, they do things as far as boost is concerned. But in general, boost dash is just like pure damage dash. It just does a bunch of damage. And so pushing breakpoints makes more damage go through, but it doesn't necessarily make certain on-hit effects that much better. Still, +2 to like 3 different attacks. This is like playing a +6 card down, and you can split it over turns, so it is pretty solid. Still, for me, this is like a solid 3-star card. 3 stars, great. T-bone, this card, how do I not just like value this super high? It's a great card. T-bone costs nothing. It's an attack, and you can boost it. Like you give me those 3 words, and it's already like super playable, because we already play 0-60 doing the exact same thing, right? Blocks for 3 as well. It's the first card that we've talked about today that blocks. If you control a card on the combat chain that was boosted, the defending hero must defend T-bone with an equipment they control if able. That is a big deal. And of course you can boost this as well. So if you go boost an attack prior to this and then boost a T-bone, and they commit a card that can block to block, like for example, I don't know, Skullcap, and it stays there blocking, you can then play another T-bone to grab something else that is eligible to block, and then that has to block as well. So for example, you can go like boost attack into T-bone, grabbing their Skullcap, because that's what they'll probably throw out there, into another T-bone, and then they may be forced to block with something that they don't want to see destroyed, like a Fiendal's Spring Tunic. Now, you may be asking the question, well, what if they have like a card, like an equipment that doesn't block at all, like has no block value? That can't come into play here. But if they have something that has a 0 block value, they can just throw that out there, and unless it's got like Blade Break or something like that, then it's just going to be one of those cards that they can throw out there. So there is a way to play around this if they're playing something, and of course like Time Skippers has no block on it. It's got a 0 block, I should say. And so they can chuck that out in front of T-bone and keep that. But if you string together some T-bones, maybe like pitch stack your deck, put 3 T-bones next to each other and some other boost attack, then you can get really, really gross with stealing away some of their very important equipment and just destroying this. I think this is a solid 4-star card. I could even be talked into putting this at 5-star because I feel like this is an immediate auto include into every boost dash deck, and maybe even maybe even just every deck. I don't know how many boost attacks you actually put into control, like pistol dash, but this may just straight up be an auto include in every deck going forward because of how you could just bait out certain equipments. I'm gonna give it a 4-star, but you could probably talk me into the comments down there. Tell me if this is a 5-star card, because I could honestly see it. Payload, a really cool one. This one, beautiful art, by the way. A lot of these cards, just fantastic art in this set. 2 cost, 6 attack, 3 block. 6 attack, 3 block, this is like already great. And it says if you've boosted this combat chain, it gains dominate. This is one of those cards that you end the combat chain with. You boost and you hit a 2 for 6 at the end with dominate. Your opponent's already started to maybe commit a few cards from hand, and all of a sudden they're like, well, now I just have to take a bunch more damage. Solid 3-star card. The fact that you can like end the combat chain and possibly even end the game with this makes it fantastic. Maybe I'm undervaluing this card. I don't know. I'm giving it a 3-star because it just feels solid. But again, this is one of those that maybe you just always play this card. I mean, we've played 2 for 6s before, but maybe you just always play this card. I'll have to reevaluate based on your comments down below if I'm wrong. But I could probably be talked into maybe making this a 4-star as well. Because I think here's the thing. I thought about these cards a lot over like the past few days, and I'm just talking myself more and more into making them better, but now I'm trying to control myself and not say everything is full gas, but I think everything may be full gas for Mechanologist. Maybe I should just put this as a 4-star card. And then we have Zoom In, a card I opened in that first pack of Everfest that I opened in foil. Beautiful foil card. They just put the lines all foil. 2 cost as well. It's a 2 for 5, so stats compared to Payload are not necessarily as good. 2 for 5 versus 2 for 6, but it says when you attack with Zoom In, opt X, where X is the number of times that you've boosted this combat chain, and you can boost this as well. So this makes for a really interesting add-in. It is expensive though. I will say the expense here knocks it a little bit. It's the same for the last one. Both of them do have a little bit of expense involved, and sometimes with Boost Dash that is just the downside, is that everything is just a little bit too expensive, so you need to gain resources in a variety of ways to pay for it all. But this one allows you to sort of set up some nice things, particularly if you're like doing this plus the teclopounder heart after to gain more resources. This is one of those kinds of cards that seems really decent, but I don't think you're running. I don't know if you'd run all the reds and the yellows. I'm not sure I would ever run the blues here because the blue just pushes for 3, but I'm looking at the yellows going, that yellow seems really solid, and then the red for 5 also seems good. But allowing you to opt maybe like twice. I feel like opt 2 is the normal mode that you're going to get for this as far as range analysis is concerned. Playing this second and opting X seems like a solid effect, and looking at the top 2 cards of your deck and then just setting them up to be banished by certain effects seems pretty good. So I'm giving this a 3-star. Rotary Ram, one of the last cards we're talking about. Rotary Ram costs nothing. It is an action, and it blocks for 3. So this is a non-attack action, one of those that could be knocked down by Signal Jammer. You don't want to play too many of these, right? The next Mech action card, attack action card you play this turn, gains +3 attack. And if you've boosted this turn, you put this on the bottom of your deck. So it's like a pump, non-attack pump, that also gives you some benefit for cycling itself. Now, the cycling itself, don't sleep on that effect, because if you're playing Boost Dash, there is a real possibility that you just run out of cards eventually, right? So cards that cycle themselves, like this one, are actually pretty beneficial. Unfortunately, you do have to, like, play this after you've boosted once, so you have to break the combat chain to play this card, go to the bottom of your deck, and then start a new combat chain up, and that does mess with a few cards that are already sort of staples for Mechanologist, things that look for the combat chain and like compare certain aspects of the combat chain to its card text. So this one has me a little worried as far as like real playability. The buff is great, but breaking the combat chain just to use the second portion of this effect doesn't seem great to me. So for me, this is a 2-star card, which is a little unfortunate. All the cards in Mech seem decent. Well, I should say Rotary Ram not so much. But all the other cards in Mech seem solid. They seem really good. I'm really pumped about all of this because I like Boost Dash, And I like these tech options at Majestic that they've given us. So let me know what you think about Mechanologist in a comment below. I think they did a great job of buffing up Mech overall, and I think some people should definitely look at the damage output for Boost Dash and compare it now to some of the damage outputs across the board in the rest of the game. I'm curious to see how this plays out. This could be a really interesting deck going into some competitive play, seeing if certain control decks can actually deal with the damage output. And it's very possible that they can, but it's worth trying. And I think that's my favorite thing about supplemental sets. It's always an option to try new things, or try things that used to be interesting and now may be interesting in a new way. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, do the thing to make the number go to the number. When we hit, like, I don't know, when we hit 10K, they said it's supposed to happen this year. At some point, we should hit 10K. We're going to have a big celebration. It'll be a great time. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.